The question I'm going to ask today, Dad, Papa, is...
And today I want to talk to you, Mom.
The question that we're going to talk about is...
What is the most scared I've ever been? That one leapt off the page for me.
How we embrace the things that we've done that we regret in life.
How I almost died twice in 2 years.
How was the day of your wedding?
Well, there's an interesting story with that.
And I can tell you about it.
Welcome to the Storyworth Podcast. I'm your host, Storyworth co-founder Krista Baum. Storyworth brings people together to discover stories they've never heard about the people they thought they knew. Hear real conversations about the stories, big and small, that shape us. Today on the podcast, a mother and child explore two incredible moments of synchronicity that have quite literally shaped one family across generations.
My name is Kerry Francis. I'm 55, and I am going to be talking today with my kid, Arlo.
My name's Arlo. I'm 17, and I'm going to be talking to my mom, Kerry.
We are sitting in Arlo's bedroom in Tupelo, Mississippi, and it's where I grew up, and this land has been in our family for a number of generations since the 30s, and this is the house that we built when I was 15.
So, Mom, today I have a question. There are these photos floating around our house, and it's a young man with models on a beach, and there's a total beach photo shoot, swimsuits, polo shirts, and all. I want to know the backstory behind those photos. And why are they lying around our house, but treated with reverence?
Well, there's an interesting story with that. Those are actually some pictures from a magazine that used to be in my rainbow folder that I had when I was 12 years old. It had a beautiful Pegasus on it and rainbows all over it. And in that folder was like everything I was going to manifest in my life. I would look through magazines, I would draw pictures, I would, do everything that I could to get all my fantasies in that folder. And being 12, most of the pictures were like a totally purple room, or a baked Alaska, or look at that wonderful dress that's by Laura Ashley that I really want, that's kind of expensive for me. But one day, my friend and I were busy lightening our hair in the Saltillo Fishing Club, which was like a lake in Saltillo, Mississippi, which is like out in the boonies. Lots of people that would come to fish on the weekends. And my friend and I were sitting outside, and we had our 17 magazines next to us in our lounge chairs. We had mayonnaise and lemon on our hair because, that's how you lighten your hair if you don't have lots of money. So we would sit out and lighten our hair in the sun and look at our magazines and rip out pages of things that we really liked. So my friend and I were sitting out there looking at this one April 1983 issue of 17 magazine. And she was really liking all the white polo shirts and white shorts that were in the issue. And I was kind of like, I don't really like that. But this guy that's on this picture is pretty amazing. Everything was like plain white and polo shirts. So kind of conservative for my taste. And in contrast was this man that was like smiling. He looked like he had some like swimming stuff on. He was at a beach. He's in a sailor suit. To me, that said adventure, right? Like I like some boats, some ships. Like I wouldn't mind, maybe not a cruise, but like I would definitely like to, go traveling.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Just like All these ideas went into my head, of what I could do at the beach with this friendly fellow. He just looked handsome, I'll just have to say. And I don't know. It was one of those spontaneous, like, yeah, I'm going to rip this out and I'm going to put it right in my folder, my dreams folder. And, time went by because I was 12 when that happened. And then I'd say I was probably like in my 30s. And I came back home one year. My kids were with me. I had a family, I'd had kids. And the kids were running around and my mom was like, you need to clean out your room because, you've been gone a long time and it's time for you to purge. She was like, okay, I need this space for an office and you are way past needing to clear out this room. So, I start going through it. I find a lot of things from high school and I find my folder and I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder about what is in here. I can't even remember all the things that are in here. So I'm going through all the pages and I'm like, wow, some of those things actually came true. That was like really cool. I did end up having a purple room. I did get to have the baked Alaska, though I didn't make it. I wanted to make it. I did go to Australia and see some kangaroos. And when I'm looking at them all, I'm thinking, some of these are just so amazing, though. And I see these and I think, well, maybe I should keep some of these. But then I'm like, no, and I throw it away. And then we ended up moving back to Santa Cruz. And I ended up, splitting up with my partner. And to help us through that time, I started taking Aikido. I thought the martial arts was helpful to my mental health, and my kids really enjoyed the classes. And there was a fellow there that was a teacher, and he and I started talking. And I felt an immediate connection with him. And after a bit of time, he asked me out on a date. So we go on a date and we go out to eat and we go back to his house and we were just chatting about all kinds of different things. He was pulling everything out, showing me this, showing me that, showing me pictures, photographs of his family, showing me, different things he had done, different places he had been, And he throws my ripped pages of my magazine that I had put in my folder.
Do you remember what you said to him when he just threw those out at you?
I think I said, what the really? But no, actually, I think, I probably said something like, what are you doing with my magazine? And it kind of freaked me out. I was like, why does he have these, magazine pages that I've held on to in my folder for so long? And did he get them out of the trash? And then immediately after that thought, of course, that's a moment of panic. And then immediately after that, I'm like, oh, wait, these are not my actual pictures. And then I'm like, why is he throwing these at me now? And then I look at him and he says, that's me. That's me. And, and so that is your dad.
There's my dad. And how old do you think he was then?
It was 1983, 84, when that magazine came out. I think that he was like 22, 23.
It's funny to look at them now because I'm actually like a lot closer to the age that he is in these photos than I was, when I first heard about it. Now I'm looking at them again and realizing like, wow, he was super young in these photos.
He said, well, actually, I was, in the Bahamas and I was at this Club Med, and there was a circus camp that he was helping teach kids about circus tricks and stuff. It was like a little summer job.
If I recall it correctly, he didn't have anything to do with the photo shoot at all. And originally it was just going to be these girls and modeling the swimsuits and the glasses and the polo shirts, all the, cutest new styles. Were on the beach, and then he was there and they decided to rope him into the photo shoot.
Well, I mean, I think he was probably flirting with these ladies on the beach, and it turned out that they were models, and they were, they were like, "This, you're perfect. Come on over. We need a guy for this shoot." He had shown lots of people that magazine because it was his one foray into modeling, but he had never found someone that had been like, "Yeah, I saw those." And I told him that I had ripped the pages out when I was a kid, that I had ripped them out and put them in a folder. I told him the story immediately, and he thought I was just making it up.
That's too specific to make up. You can't, unless you're really good at improv and just can make up a story off the top of your head. If you're that surprised and the story just spills out of you, that's really hard to believe. That was so long ago in her little rainbow-covered folder that she had baked Alaskans in a purple room.
I love that because one of the things that when you hold on to things that validate your dreams coming true in different ways, it's like a lot of these were dreams of, a young kid, really.
When you had that encounter with my future dad and the magazines, and you two came to the realization of how you're both connected to the magazine and the backstory behind it, how did it make you feel in terms of how it was brought together, how you two were brought together by that?
Yes, it definitely had a huge effect. Definitely. There were a number of things that happened along with that made me realize that, there was really something strong there, and that we were supposed to spend some time together and create someone really beautiful. But the synchronicities of life are always way more amazing than anything that you could make up. When things like these strange synchronicities happen, and it's beyond anything that I can even imagine.
So the story about how you met my dad, does remind me a little bit of the other kind of crazy synchronicity that we have in our family, concerning my great-great-great-grandfather. Would you remind me about that?
This was in 1878. It begins in 1878 in Memphis during the smallpox or the yellow fever epidemic, when a fourth of the population passed away, of Memphis's population passed away from the yellow fever epidemic. This is a story about Irenaeus Trout. He was in the Howard group, which was a group of young men that were courageous during the time, trying to help take the dead to be buried, take the living to be, to be helped. And would just go door to door and check on the people that were living there, hoping to find survivors. At the time, he was 18, and he was, in good health, so there was less chance of him getting the virus. But at the same time, he was always led by his spiritual beliefs, and felt like if he was doing work for the greater good that he was doing what he needed to be doing in his life. So he was going from door to door, knocking and checking on people. And he came to this one house where he found that the mother had passed away. And there was a baby that was next to the mother, and it was hungry and crying. And he went in and took the baby to be taken care of just for the day while he took care of the rest of the people that were in the house that had passed away. After he did that, he went and he took the child to an orphanage and signed her in, and, had to keep going. He just had to, he went on for many weeks this way, taking care of people. And as a result of his experience with this, he wanted to go into theology and become a theology student. So he did that, and he continued on and became a rector, and was so impassioned with his work that the years went by, and he was just so into taking care of people and being there for people, and the spirit, following his spiritual ideals, that he didn't marry. But your great grandfather wanted to have a family, but he was just so busy with his work that he, hadn't made the time for it. So his friends invited him to their daughter's coming of age party. And, he really liked them, so he decided to go. And at this party, he immediately saw a girl, a young woman, and was immediately struck by her beauty. So he went to go speak to her. And it turned out that she was the daughter of his friends, and she was the person that the party was for. They struck up a conversation. She immediately liked him, wanted to talk to him about his travels, his experiences. They immediately had a connection. So he asked if it was okay if he courted her, and she gave consent, and the parents gave consent, and they get married. She has known for some time that she's adopted, and she knows the story of her adoption, but it's not something that they share before they get married. After, she's talking to her mother-in-law, and she starts going into the history of, how she was adopted when she was a baby. She lost her mother, etc., etc. And then starts talking about the cabin that they had lived in and the whole story. And then as she's telling it, he recognizes the story that she's telling, like, play by play. And he's like, that happened to you? And she said, yes, everyone's told me this is my history. And he's like, well, that was me.
That's an amazing story.
What I think about when I think about it is, like, when someone does you a great service, like something that is as strong as saving your life, will you always remember them? Like, will your spirit, like, continue to recognize them? When someone gives you some great gift like that, I think it's impossible not to recognize them somehow. And they had 4 kids. One of those kids, the oldest, was my great-grandfather, Fred Trout, who was the person who bought our property. Yeah, our farm. I was told that story from a very young age. It was actually in a newspaper article. The original newspaper article was framed on my grandmother's wall. And it was, something that was in our family was held. Synchronicity, being led to do certain things, listening to your spirit, listening to, your gut. All these things were very honored in our family and spoken about. And these stories were told often. And these stories were told to everyone. So, the idea that these things are possible and that they're important and they're meaningful and they help you find your way in life, it was always something that was very important in my family.
I don't remember a specific time that you told that story to me, but just like you grew up with it, you told it to me as I was growing up as well, as just another example of synchronicity and the things that have led our family to each other and made those connections. Hearing both of these stories and getting the backstory on them and understanding how these different stories are connected through our family, it's amazing. It's like very wonderful. I don't know. It makes me think, is what's next? Is there another synchronicity that's yet to happen in the next generations of our family?
I do. I wonder too.
It was really nice to recount these stories and revisit them. It feels like every time we talk about these family stories, I have another perspective or I learn something new about the story, and it's really nice to talk about them. Thanks, Mom.
I love sharing with you.
That's it for this episode of the Storyworth Podcast. I'm Krista Baum. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, rate and review our podcast wherever you're listening. Stories featured on the Storyworth Podcast are shared with the express permission and participation of the storyteller. All Storyworth stories are private by default. Visit storyworth.com to learn more about us. And this podcast was produced by the folks at Good Weight Productions. Remember, everyone has a story worth sharing. See you soon.